From America to Ghana, the story of the Black Cowboy comes full circle. I'm in conversation with the Compton Cowboys about reclaiming a history that was erased. The Compton Cowboys use horseback culture to rewrite stereotypes, uplift their community, and reconnect Black people to the legacy of equestrian living. What do you think of when you hear the word cowboy? I want you to close your eyes right now and think of the first image that comes to your mind when you think of the word cowboy. Now, this video is an opportunity for you to shift whatever perspective it is that you have about what a cowboy is. You know why? Because today I have the Compton Cowboys on my show. I am so excited to talk to these gentlemen today, talking about the history of Black people as equestrians, cowboys, how it connects from Black American history and connects with people on the African continent. They are here in Ghana today, and let's dive into this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to the three of you. I want everybody watching to know about this book. First of all, Black in the Saddle. We're going to talk to the author of this book and his sons about all the work that they've been doing. I'm putting it in the video description, the link to this book so that you can purchase it for yourself and read more about all the things to do with Black people and the equestrian lifestyle. Welcome to Ghana.
Excited to be here.
I know you've been here for, is it a week now? Or
10 days. It's
just over a week?
Pleasure.
And it's not your first time here,
No.
but it's their first time here.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first time in Ghana?
50 years ago, I was a college kid and I experienced travel across Africa, and I also lived in a village for 2 months with no running water and no electricity.
You stayed in a village for 2 months?
Yeah.
Here in Ghana?
No, actually in Liberia, out in the bush.
Okay.
And life-changing experience.
I can imagine. I have never stayed in a village for 2 months.
Interesting. Me neither. Me either.
You know, a couple days here and there, but I've not done 2 months, so that's really good.
The amazing thing is I was able to reach out to my mom and say, "Mom, I don't know if I can take this." And she said, "That's how I grew up. What's wrong with you?" I said, "Oh my God, okay, I got to do this." So I made the adjustments.
Where did your mom grow up?
In Nevada, in the desert out near Las Vegas. Okay.
All right. And the two of you, this is your first time in Ghana. What was it like when you arrived?
It was such an emotional roller coaster. I felt like for me, just firstly, like getting off the airplane, just seeing all the Blackness, like was like very profound. It was like beautiful. It was like, first I was like, how do I feel about this? It's such a foreign sensation. Then I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. I was like, all Black people, the music they were playing, and all the fashion and all the dialect and everything. I was like, wow, I'm really in Africa. Like, it kind of settling. And then, over the course of the week, it's basically been a roller coaster for sure, because like one minute I'm feeling very like spiritually moved by just being amongst the people and being on the motherland. And then 1 minute I'm feeling like the tragedy of the history of here and everything that colonization, did to the place, and seeing the remnants and kind of the byproduct of that. 1 minute you're like sitting at a resort eating some amazing food and it's great, and you're hearing music and you're and then next minute you're traveling down and you're seeing all the kids with no shoes and all the different things. 1 minute I'm at the New Year's Eve party, having the best party I ever been to my whole life. We partied from 11 to 7 in the morning straight, and I stayed the whole time.
Wow.
Danced the whole time. I've never experienced anything like that. It was incredible. Then the very next day you go to the slave dungeons and go to the Cape Coast, where to see the actual passage and process of where our people were stripped from the land and never came back. So it's a very emotional roller coaster. up and down, left and right. But all in all, I feel like it was very profound learning experience and spiritual experience as well. I feel like so definitely a perspective shifter, and I'll take a lot home with me. And I definitely intend to make it a point to return make it like a routine annual basis. I mean, at least got to go back to that party every year. Well, at least that part. But but everything else too, though, right? Like cultural connection, especially getting with the horse, people riding the horses on the beach was beautiful. Seeing our counterparts and all that. So I don't know if you wanted to maybe speak to the horse and the how it was with the horses and the people.
Yeah, I'll tell you about my experience. I felt like a widespread variety of things. I was excited to get off the plane, seeing all the black folks. Then moving around Africa, I tasted the food first. I love the food, but it was a new experience to my body. So I was making an adjustment. I kind of got sick, but I took some medicine, got through it. Feel a lot better now. So after that, we went to see the horses at the first beach, Loboti Beach. Laboma Beach, okay. And then those horses was cool, but we didn't really get to ride them horses like that. So we went to another beach at the next door beach resort. They had a little bit, the horses was a little bit more spunky. So I was able to pick up speed with them and get a real feel for the horses in Africa. I loved it. I can't wait to see the content. Getting me emotional. But the next thing, we went to that party. I had a lot of fun at the party. It was just a little overwhelming. I spent 3.5 hours there. And then I let my brother stay the rest of the time. I had to give me some rest.
He left halfway through. I stayed the whole time. I was like, bro, I'm going crazy. He was like, bro, we don't party like this. We do like 4 hours at home. And
So the next day, we had to prepare to go to Cape Coast, which I was kind of ready for it. It was intense. We did this river walk to help us connect to our ancestors. And when we started, the tour guide played this song, started to break me down. And it's just talking about it is bringing all these emotions out, which is crazy. On the way back from the walk, we went to get some food, and then we did the dungeon, which was intense. It was intense, like, and then that was the end of it from yesterday. It was a long trip back. I kind of got sick at the end of yesterday too, because Cape Coast is like 4 hours away. Yeah. And that's a different environment than where we were most of the trip.
Yeah. The drive there, I keep telling people now that there's construction happening. And so the drive is now like 4 hours. When the road wasn't being constructed, it was only 2.5 hours to go. But now it's definitely.
I can tell, it's a long dirt road.
It's a rough trip. Yeah.
Yeah, the trip itself was a rodeo. I mean, it's like, I'm like somebody should have got a camera out and just said, we was in an African rodeo on the road.
Well, what people might not know about you two, the two of you are your brothers, you're twins.
Yeah, we're twins.
So you have a special bond. Twins usually have a special bond. You're born together. You have, a connection with different things. And your father brought you up together as a single dad.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that story, how you ended up raising them by yourself.
The easy start is, their mother said the three of us were a problem. So she left. And it was hard, at first, but I was committed to making sure I took care of my boys. And then also it gave me a spin on the whole thing of it takes a village to raise a child. So from that is when I began kind of our compound approach to what we now have as the Compton Cowboys and the ranch. So my mom lived on the ranch, my sisters, my brother, my sons, and now our extended family lives on and around the ranch, who are the people who grew up in the program with these guys. They're now adults working in the program, and their kids call me grandpa. And now I got my grandsons from Randy has 2 kids. So it's just a familiar thing that I stumbled into, but it's really grown on me of this is how we do it. This is what we do.
And how did you get into the equestrian life? Is it something that you were raised in and then you decided this is what you want to do? Or did you just discover it on your own?
It's a stumble, but it's a stumble on your own DNA is what I call it. So my sister was the cowgirl. She's older than me. And where we grew up in housing projects, poor. But it was unique for LA because we had one direction you went, it was the ghetto, drugs, gangs. The other direction, though, we bordered a swamp. And in fact, the name of the swamp was the Nigger Slough. And because all the black people lived in that area who serviced all the neighborhoods. It wasn't in modern times used, but when I went to the research, I found it. So, but out on that swamp, there were homeless people and poor people who, someone living in their camper had 1 or 2 horses, some had goats, some had some pigs, stuff like that. So my sister, she kind of affiliated with that. She kind of got connected. So she came out and we started going horseback riding at some of the horseback riding places, but nothing really. Then she, as a realtor, stumbled on a neighborhood, which is where we are now, Richland Farms, which was a place you could live and have horses. No, it's just unbelievable for her and for us. So she said, I'm moving to Compton. And me, at the time, saying, along with everybody else, you can't move to Compton. It was when it was in its high point of trouble, of gangland fighting and the like. The music made famous by Dre and Snoop and those guys, that's just a lot of reality in that. And but she said, got to do what God told me to do. So she went. 4 years later, when I'm moving there, after interacting with her and seeing the lifestyle and the like, my friends are telling me my friends are, I'm a Harvard MBA and had some pretty extensive buddies and things from Occidental College who are doctors in this, and they're telling me, you can't move to Compton. You have lost your mind. And I said, maybe, but I got to do what God told me to do. And so I joined my sister, and she's the founder of what they're doing today. And I helped her, we grew it, and just started going. That's how it kind of got started from her. How Randy took over leadership was my sister and I were ready to retire from doing it, her especially. And she said, okay. I said, look, let's just shut it down because what you do, Maisha, nobody else can carry that. So let's just shut it down because it's just going to make you sad if it doesn't carry on the way you want. In the middle of that process, Randy comes to me and says, Dad, you can't shut it down. It was too important for me and all my buddies. My cohorts, I came up with it. So I'm emotional because I never expected him to kind of pick up my mission that way. So it's been pretty powerful that he picked it up without me kind of saying, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Matter of fact, he'll tell you he left the kind of cowboy world for a little bit as he kind of start making his way, and he ended up back. And I just very thankful for that because his leadership has been powerful.
It's admirable. I mean, that means you must have really had them growing in it for him to even think of wanting to keep it going.
Yeah, they were riding they don't even remember it at 3. They were on the back of a horse. He knows because now his sons are at that level. They're 5 and 7. They've been on a horse for a few years now. So that's how they came up. And for Carlton, it was really, it brought him to life, dealing with those horses. And so they grew up in that lifestyle. And that's who they are today. I'm like, wow.
I'm curious to know, because there may be people watching who are thinking that they want to put their kids in it. They might have some fears because your stories, safety, those kinds of things, what are the things that people should consider before they put their children on a horse, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old?
All right. One of them,
I can speak to that. Really, I think I always go back to more of the spiritual component of it. I think I like to speak to how horses and humans are designed to be together. So it's the first, like I would say, the foundation or the original premise of the whole engagement between the kids and the horses is that this is meant to be. This is supposed to be like this. And we're not forcing anything. We're not doing anything that's unnatural or abnormal. This is design. So horses are here for us. We're here for them. We're meant to be together. So this is just us introducing you to what that relationship naturally is. There's the same natural fear factors that deal with any animal, right? I'm not gonna bid, I'm not gonna, whatever. But those are just common safety protocols and approaches that you take to mitigate those issues. But the important thing about getting kids with the horses very early is that it's a metaphor for life in the sense that horses, for the most part, they have a bigger presence. They're bigger animals. So they take up a lot of space. And in comparison to humans, humans are, take up less space. In that dynamic, the inferior presence or party. But because of the horse's natural disposition to be accommodating, and to be curious, to be loving, and to be a companion of sorts, once the kid interacts with, they see the horse, they get scared. They meet the horse, touch the horse. Within a few minutes, that is flipped on its head. And now the kid is curious and they're excited and they want to learn more. And the metaphor that it is like, life can be big and overwhelming and seem like it's very scary. But you be proactive, you approach it with confidence and calm and understand that this is part of the natural order, that you too can, just because something's big and scary doesn't mean that it can hurt you or harm you or is dangerous to you or should push you away. If you just approach, taking time, you be intentional about what you're doing and understand that, it's part of the natural code, you'll be just finding to make your way. And eventually that progress of going from being scared to being interested, curious, to being able to actually deal with the horse, to actually mount the horse, that's life. Could be big and scary, try it. Okay, I can do this. Start, you get to, and then that's what you conquer. You end up on top if you stay at it. So it's a very beautiful process that we try to introduce to as many kids as possible, as early as possible. Even at this, and the earlier the better.
Yeah.
Earlier, we have a baby on our ranch right now, Ayla, who was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have a few. She's the youngest. She's 1 or 2 right now. 2.
Yeah, she should be 2. And
we have 2 babies that were born on the ranch. They're now 3 and 5. They're sisters. They're actually born in the house, like on the property.
I think they don't get good.
Ayla is the newest baby that wasn't born on the property, but she's been there because her dad is our main ranch hen. And so she's been there every day since she was, born. They've been having her out at least around the ranch. And to see her now at 2 years old, walking around, boots on, pulling shovels, leading the horses, like she's a baby, like literal little baby. Not even have words.
She's turning 2 in a couple of weeks.
She's very handy with the tools, and she wants to be actively involved. And so we're excited to see what she's gonna be, because her skill set, her confidence, and everything is just already sky high. So, but that's a testament to what we try to bring.
Okay. Fair. Now, the moniker Compton Cowboys, how did you come up with that?
Yeah, we were, again, the original name of the organization was Compton Junior Posse. And when I was coming into it, there was a couple thought processes. One was, posse is a very Western oriented term, but equestrian activities extend beyond Western. Western is a subdivision of all equestrian activities, but equestrian activities run the gamut. There's a whole spectrum of what those are. So I wanted the organization to have, at its core, a word that was not just so Western leaning, it was more generally oriented. So that was the nonprofit organization, Compton Junior Posse. I renamed the the organization Compton Junior Equestrians for the nonprofit piece. So that's all, just equestrian in general, just horses and people. Then I said, okay, we are an alumni club who did grow up Western, very particularly Western. So we'll brand the alumni club as Compton Cowboys. And Compton Cowboys just has a really cool appeal, and it has a cool, all of the grammatical and marketing chops that you would see and feel, because that's what I studied. That's what I've always loved. So I figured, Compton Cowboys, just it had a vibe, and then I came up with, our signature colorway, which is I just wanted to pay homage to like the signature Compton brand of its own, which is the Old English font, the black and white letters and colors, and so that was very easy. And then I wanted it to be Compton first. I didn't name us the Cowboys of Compton. I wanted it to be Compton Cowboys because I wanted to put Compton first. The name of the city, it already has its own heartbeat. It already has its own brand. And even though the brand has some negative undertones, I wanted to intentionally reframe those undertones. So I wanted people to think Compton. I wanted them to start hearing Compton Cowboys and start thinking Compton, oh, farmers, Compton land, Compton people. And so that was all that went into that. And it kind of came to be, we were on this, right when I started coming over to like get in the leadership of the organization, we got the first job that kind of started that was a big brand advertisement for Guinness beer. And we weren't Compton Cowboys yet. We were just like cowboys who were from Compton, and we're going to be a part talent in this ad. And when we were on set, they kept on, when they would call for talent, they would say, yo, we need those cowboys, those Compton Cowboy guys.
Yeah.
And so I was like, damn, we are the Compton Cowboys. And then, so I just like established it and then just hit the ground running, started social media, started a website, and we've been rolling ever since.
So I'm going to read an excerpt from the book, Black in the Saddle, From African Cowboys to Modern Cowboys. Randy wrote the foreword in the book. And, we've been talking about them growing up with this environment. And he said, when I first saddled up as a kid in Compton, I couldn't have imagined how far this journey would take me. Now, having grown into one of many leaders within the broad and growing modern Black cowboy movement, I've witnessed firsthand how the enduring spirit of Black equestrian culture continues to uplift, empower, and transform our communities. Horses have long been more than a symbol of freedom. They have been a bridge to self-determination, resilience, and healing. I wanted to touch on that. Horses being a symbol of freedom and self-determination, resilience, and healing. Any of you can speak to that, because that kind of resonated with me, because I hadn't sat down and thought about horses being a symbol of that.
No.
So I would love to hear any of you can answer that.
Okay, I could speak. The horses being free is like it's a spiritual symbolism because they live in the wild in the pack. So they're kind of domesticated, but when they're with their pack, they're not. But we have them domesticated. So bonding with them enhances the spiritual connection, and it'll teach you things like patience, and like it's very therapeutic, and it'll just help you evolve as a person. And I feel like that's most of what I can say about the freedom. And it relates to other things too.
Yes. The freedom piece is really strong because it mostly hits you when you're on a horse and you're out in the world on horseback. Especially when we grew up in an urban environment, our environment is there's so many parameters. There's so many, there's gates and fences and territorial geographical demarcations and all these different things that tell you where you can and can't go and what you can and can't do and all this. But when you get on a horse, it kind of almost feels like it transcends the man-made mapping of life. And then the fact that you're on this horseback and you can go and you can just keep going until you say stop, right? And that's very liberating. Not to mention what we don't talk about a lot is just the simple difference between having the eye view at whatever I'm 5'7", so but then when you're on a horse, you're adding 4 or 5 feet, but now you're seeing the world from an elevated standpoint. So just those 4 feet changes your whole perspective on life. When you're elevated above, you can see from a higher point of view. It makes you feel high, feel strong, and above the man-made worldly things that are going on, car driving by, people walking by, and all that.
You feel liberated, like he said. That's a good word to use.
And there was even a saying that they would say, one of the worst fears of a white man was to see a black man on a horse. Was because that represented that freedom, that flipping of that hierarchy and that strata. It's exactly what it is. You feel that you're able to go and be and do your own thing, and then this horse is here with you, for you. And if you want to go faster, fast, speed up, slow down, get off and get on as you see fit. But it just makes you feel, liberated.
Now, you talked about the flipping of the hierarchy. So I want to kind of take it back in history, because you do touch on historical context in the book with respect to people in Africa and their equestrian lifestyle historically, people in America, and then the wiping out of history. So I want you to touch on that a little bit, because some people might still be like, they feel like there's a disconnect, especially if you have grown up in America or in Canada. Like we see movies where you see stories of cowboys, the lead actor, it's always like the same kind of image that we see. So talk a little bit about that and how you've addressed that in your book.
I want to create a link here, what they just talked about, of what they stumbled on through their experience. If you can imagine the culmination of that as part of your culture, your community, how you feel about who you are as a people, that, if you put that back in African times, that's what you're talking about that flourishing. It flourished so powerfully that it made these African empires the most powerful empires in the world because of their horsemanship and their cavalries, that they were able to take that relationship with their horses and take it to conquer the world. Then you take it forward, why it was so important for the colonizers to destroy that, being a core component of who they were and what their power was. So in Ghana today, there's limited knowledge that the king of Ghana, historically, in say around the 800s or so, had 1,000 royal horses of his own. Just to connect with that, what did that mean for them as a people? It was an important part of who the king was, who the leadership was, and who people strove to be like. Today, you can't find that infrastructure and knowledge of horses anywhere, because it was purposefully part of the destruction of African people as we were pushed into slavery and made into new people of who we are. So this full circle thing for me is watching them flourish, seeing how it went, how it had to be as a part of a people who live with nature, how that grew them so powerful, and then how that was taken down, and a result of where we are today.
Okay, so I want to look. I'm going to take some time to research that and learn a little bit more about it. Because I know in Ghana we have so many different ethnic backgrounds. I want to know if it was the king of the Ashanti people, or like which of the ethnic groups that it was. But it is good to know, because I didn't know that there was, in Ghanaian history, that there was somebody who had like a fleet of horses, and I never really thought about it. But I know that today, sometimes I do see some of the cultural festivals. I don't know. I don't think you guys had a chance to attend those because of the short time that you were here. But if you're ever able to come back, there are cultural festivals that happen in the different regions, and the chiefs palaces. Sometimes you'll see people coming on horses, And also in Nima, the Nima part of Accra, there's people in the Muslim community that we see on their horses as well. Last year, I keep forgetting we're in a new year now. It's 2026. 2024, I remember at the Afro Future Festival, they had a whole bunch of horses that just came, and these men were dressed in this like royal looking regalia, and they were just riding around, and everybody was like in awe of them when they came in, and they're just going around, and it became the highlight of the cultural side of the festival. So it's always cool to see those things. So if you ever make it back to Ghana, it's good to make a point to go to some of these cultural festivals, because you will see some of the people on the horses and stuff too.
Yeah, some of the connections that we made, even we made a connection to the king of Osu.
Osu, yes, the
yeah.
Osu Manche.
He was participating with us to some degree, and he said in his ancestry, he wasn't that familiar with it, but he has ancestors who had horses, and if he goes and follows them up through where they are in Ghana, that they'll even have horses today. Wow. So there's some of this that's out there. You're exactly right. Kind of when you get into it, it's driven by who was the king, what the people were, who they did, what they did. So these are issues that we have to explore. For us, the first level was we're urban cowboys. And facing that struggle of what they experienced from horses together for them. We wanted to experience that here. So that was our first connection, that we connected with Marie Rides Horses, because that's what she's doing. She's starting from that grassroots level. So we made a really powerful connection there of who we are. And that will just rise to those the things that you're talking about, which is what we're hoping, and she sees it, we're hoping that all of our work starts rising, so people say, what is that? And Afro Futures is a place that we talk to them about that and how we're going to connect with them better, because when it rises, it's pretty powerful, but the fact that it's so shocking to so many people is what's the issue that we are wrestling with.
Okay, and so now with the history in America, with people who were enslaved, people who escaped for freedom, what's the history there, and why is it that people don't know about them as much as they should?
Yeah, well, I'm the writer of the book that's about that, so I'll start with that, and then you guys can chime in. But first of all, it was really the equestrian connection comes from me through, as I'm learning about it, that the expertise of the Africans was how slavery started. And I'm in the Cape Coast discussion, and the guy presenting it saying the first 14 slaves that the Portuguese got was because they were intelligent and knowledgeable, and they wanted to put them to work in teaching and interpreting for people to transition the communities. So that point that we now understand is that it's the knowledge that the Black people had, the Africans had, that was first sought after in slavery. So all those things that were the power of those African people to keep them enslaved over time had to transition, so that if a slave knew that he came from royalty, that his skill set was so powerful, you can't keep him down on the farm, so to speak. And so all of the erasures of African expertise in everything, and equestrian was one of them, was wiped out, erased. And the reason equestrian is so important to wipe out is because horses to the world in ancient times, in fact, at the time of rising colonization, horses were to the world what trucks and cars are today.
That's true.
So
Transportation.
So if you didn't have an incredible horse infrastructure, you couldn't be a leading power. including the military, horseback. So once you start down that path, you just get on this sleigh ride. Whoa, wow. This makes so much sense of why we don't even know that Mansa Musa, why he was the richest man in the history of the world. But when you look at it, it turns out he had the most powerful cavalries that allowed him to control gold distribution worldwide. He was supplying 50% of the world's gold. And how did he do that and become the richest man? Because no one could mess with him, because he was a bad dude, okay? So these are the things that start uncovering, and these are just the tips of the iceberg that we don't even know what the extent to which the expertise was garnered, taken, and then destroyed, that it was basically taken over by whites from blacks. So here we are, white cowboys took over what the black people perfected. That's just the standard flip across almost every arena of what black people did.
Right. There's so much knowledge to this that you may not know, and I am also learning a lot from them. I just want to make sure that we support through the book, because that's the whole thing, is supporting each other through, supporting each other's businesses. Now, I just want to give the headlines of the chapters. This is the teaser for you to buy this book. So the parts of the book, we have Reclaiming the Black Cowboy's Place in History. We have the African origins of the Black Cowboy, Black Cowboys in slavery in early America, Black Cowboys and the expansion of the West, Black Cowboys and systemic erasure, which he briefly touched on, but you can read more in depth in the book. And then we have urban cowboys and the modern Renaissance, and reclaiming the legacy of Black Cowboys and Black Cowboys in the saddle of history. This book is packed with information, so you got to grab it. It's by Louis C. Hook. Buy it on Amazon and other places. Make sure you grab a copy. It's so great to have him here in Ghana, he and his sons, to talk about what they're doing and their experiences here in Ghana. Now that you've been here before, and now that the two of you are here, what are some of the things that you foresee going forward as far as trying to build community between your community in the U.S. and trying to build a community here in Ghana, connecting with Marie?
Yeah, I think,
Well, now since I'm officially a Ghanaian, I want to come to my people in America and tell them about a little bit about the motherland and everything that they can do to try to come themselves and get their own experience. I want to help them learn.
yeah, that word of mouth is so important. That's how our people have passed down history, traditions, and community and built things. So that word of mouth is definitely very important. For me, I think just leveraging the power of the platforms that we have today. The internet is a very strong tool. If properly used, it can change the world, as we've seen time and time again. So our platform is a social media, online and digital kind of driven platform. And that's how I would say that's how we even here right now. It's like, people hearing about us, seeing, knowing, and we're able to create connections and create relationships through the phone. And so I hope that we continue to use social media, use the internet to build relationships and connect with people and communities around the world. Specifically when it comes to here, I think that because this is the motherland, the homeland, and it's where it all started, I think it's very important to set that tone that we're really byproducts of a long legacy, a long history, and to get our students and any part of the community that we're engaging to have that understanding and that knowledge at the root of their experience, I think will go a long way. So I can imagine, having like an annual bridge program exchange or something where anybody that's coming to the community over the last year, we come out during December,
Yeah.
and ride, commune, eat, have conversations, and do the same experience we had, and make it like a retreat of sorts, because that just creates that connectivity to and that continuum that I think is very important as we build out our thing, because it's not just about creating something cool, it's about creating something that means something and is part of the bigger picture for the people.
Yeah, it's a good treat. That's a great thing that we're gonna do, and it's the grassroots things that really catch hold. And what's great about, as Randy said, he's been able to harness grassroots things through social media, and that's how his opportunities have come to us, including me getting focused on the book, including us being here. So it's we believe in the grassroots things, and so we're going to keep beating that that drum. So
You said you're officially Ghanaian. You are Kwame.
Kwame Asante. That's my Ghanaian name.
So that means you had a naming ceremony. What was that experience like for all three of you?
Right, it's exciting. It was exciting. He has a name also. He left his.
Quado, I'm based on how we were day you were born and the like. So Randy's got his. They were a little twisted because they're twin boys, so twin brothers. So they said, okay, how do we?
But it's in different tribes.
Yeah. So but for me, it was very interesting because when I was 18, I went through a naming ceremony in Liberia.
Oh.
And my Liberian name is Kamadu.
Oh.
Okay. So to see it here and get another one, and then it just brings home to you that who am I really? Okay. And so for me, it's just, and that's why you see us just when we're talking about anything, we're all very emotional right now.
Of course.
So
It definitely is an emotional experience. A lot of people don't realize it until they actually come here, how emotional it can be. When you go into the dungeons, when you go to the slave river, when you meet some of the communities and the chiefs, and it's not only people who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade that experience that. I think there's a lot of Black people even from the continent who have those experiences. I was born here, but we left when I was 2, just before my 2nd birthday, and grew up in Canada. My father is from the Ewe ethnic group. My mother is from the Achem group, which is in the eastern region. My father's from the Volta region. I had more exposure when I was growing up in Canada to my mother's eastern region, Akan, because the Achems are part of the Akan people. So the Akans include the Ashantis, the Fantis, the Achems, the Ekriapim, are all part of the Akan. And so, and the Nzama, I think the Nzama is also. And so, let me say Bono, before somebody comes in the comment section, somebody in the comment section got me last time. And so I got a lot more exposure to the Akan culture. But moving back to Ghana, and I remember going to an event, which was a cultural festival in 2019, and the Ewes were doing this drumming thing and this dancing and singing. And I don't understand the Ewe language. I know that the Tree language, which is part of the Akans. I had an emotional moment that I was like filming this, but I felt tears coming, and I felt this connection, like, I don't even know much about my Ewe side. And I feel this, like, it just felt like something was stirring inside of me, I also had that feeling when I went to the slave dungeon the first time I went. I was 25 when I went in there, and at that time there were some old shackles that were inside that aren't there anymore.
You went to the same dungeon in Cape Coast?
Cape Coast.
Okay.
Was it there?
No, I haven't seen.
In the late 90s when I went, there was some shackles that were in there, and they were like rusted, and they were like these are our original ones that are still here. I was like, what?
One thing that was crazy at the dungeon, he told us that some people, some survivors they came back and like tried to reenact, and they had like little closing things in there. That was kind of odd that they would want to do that.
Really?
But they needed to connect in their way.
Yeah.
Today, the most historic part of it, and I don't know that it's accurate, but it sounds right, where the guide said we went into one place and the scent is still pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And he says this is because how much blood and death happened here, they can't even wash it out.
Yes, that is true.
Oh,
true.
Wow.
It is a stationary.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I've been in there so many times, and each time I'm still like,
Yes.
you know, it's like disbelief. And I often think some of these people could have been my relatives,
They invariably were,
you know,
you know.
which, yes, some of them very likely were, you know, and sometimes people on the continent, sometimes people on the continent don't think about it that way, because there is a disconnect with some people. Some people understand what happened, and some people have a disconnect. And when you look at it like, yeah, some of our relatives may have been taken. I met a man in the Volta region who said his family was supposed to have been taken onto the ship, but the chief at that time did not want him to be taken. He wanted him to be an indentured servant
Wow.
to him.
Wow.
So it was like his great grandfather who remained. Now he is working in the palace because he's a descendant of him. So he works with the current chief in that area. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, it's the story's been passed down in the family that his family line was supposed to have been taken, but they weren't. Wow. Yeah. So the connection is definitely there.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you ever make it back, it's good to travel outside of the southern part of Ghana and go to the north.
Mhm.
Some people don't make it there. On their first trip, I can understand, because there's so much to do in such a short period of time.
Mhm.
Upper East Ghana, there is a place called the Piporo Slave Camp, and that's a place where on horses they captured people, and the person who was what they told me was that the person who was the head of marching the captured Africans would be on a horse,
Right.
while the people captured had to be walking behind that man on the
Mhm.
horse, and they would make them march all the way from the north all the way down to eventually to where the Slave River is, to where they eventually get taken to Cape Coast and Elmina.
Mhm.
But there's a history up there as well.
Mhm.
And there's people there who took DNA tests, whose DNA matched in a bank of people in the US.
Wow.
And about 20 of them have gone to that village and met who their lineage
Mhm.
was matched to.
But what's great is that with DNA, we're able to start tracking kind of where we're from. So I know that I'm from the Sahel region now, but I don't know where. So it's coming. And also, just tell you kind of how I think about things now. When you say that there were people being led by horse, the enslaved people, I know it was a slave cavalry completely driving those people like herds, because that's how they did it.
Right.
But it's weakened in the storytelling. There was one horse who the guys had to follow and everybody else. But you can imagine tracking those people across great distances, okay? It was hurting. I haven't even studied that yet, but I'm willing to bet now that I go back, I'm willing to explore it. These are the things that I'm discovering once you start connecting the dots.
What are the most memorable experiences you've had since you've been here?
I'll let those guys go.
Definitely the party.
I would say I have 3.
But beyond, but not just from a vain standpoint of having fun. Like, you know, we out here amongst the people, listening to their music. That music hits a whole different frequency. I've always felt that, even hearing it back at home, when you start hearing like Wizkid and some of the Afrobeat artists started making their way across the water into the pop realm over there, Afro beats. I remember first started hearing it and be like, wow, this must be incredible. Like when you were there on the motherland, like hearing it, and to be able to be here all night hearing the music, seeing how it makes you move, how it makes you dance, how it makes you feel, from deep in the middle of the night to the sun coming up and people still alive and going, and like that's just beautiful to witness. It's like it just reminds me of all, like, it makes me feel like this tribal like energy, you know, tribal vibes, like the spirit, when the spirits get to moving, it's just like you got to roll with whatever that's rolling. So it just felt like that, and just looking all around, seeing blacks from all over the world in one place. It was beyond just the fun of it. It's just a spiritual component, the dancing, the music, the joy, the cool clothing, and all the different energies and personalities, and seeing, like, you know, because the world would have you think that Africans are still like pre-modern, like village people, you know what I mean? And that totally flipped it on its head, because you got people in there looking flyer than anybody I've seen at home, you know, with the coolest clothing, shades, and jewelry, and that's just a whole paradigm shifter, you know. I'm like, dang, you know. So yeah, that was the most, I would say, in terms of the profound effect of like peak, like happiness, or like the inspo, that was probably for me. And then the peak, or the most profound emotional experience, was definitely the dungeons. I would say, like, looking out that last window, that corridor where they would leave from the building onto the ship, and just that whole view right there. And even like the weather was like eerie and gray, and it was just like this energy of like, you could feel it, you know. And I was just like, just putting myself there. Obviously, you know, you can't ever imagine what that's like, but just being like, just, you know, like, why all the movies you've seen, everything, other things you've read in history, and images you might have seen, kind of all come to life for you right there in that moment. It's like, this was the coast where these ships pulled up, our people got on, and who knows what happened to them after that.
Yeah, there wasn't much crazy.
That was definitely emotional. Most people peak, like, more profoundly emotional thing from a perspective shift, and heart touching kind of spot.
Yeah, like you said on that last thing, it started to rain at the dungeon, so that was crazy. The weather, how it made us feel. But most of my highlights was the food, the party, and the naming ceremony, and the horse, riding the horses. I really like found myself connected to like the African Cowboys, and it was just,
Yeah, see, Carlton, he works with the horses all day, every day. That's what he does.
Right. So he understands them, has the
Yeah.
connection with that.
Yeah. So Randy's in the leadership role out here, you know, doing all these things, and he's integrating and trying to move us all forward. My perspective is my mind just start racing. Like I just told you, when I hear something and I say, this is a curated story, I know it. And my mind starts racing. So as I'm listening to the guy talk, give the talk, and he said something, and I always wanted to like raise my hand, right? But I did say, okay, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to say one thing to him. I'm going to say, I thank you for one of the most important things that people don't know, is that those first slaves were captured for their knowledge. It's an important point. I told him that's incredibly important. Then I give him a copy of my book.
yeah, he was a very good, descriptive, elaborative speaker. Like, he'd been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
He took his time with his words, made sure everything sounded clear.
And knowledgeable.
Yeah, that is a strong point, because you think slavery, you immediately think indentured servitude for labor, and just like strip brute force, or just like hands, right? You don't think about the intellectual property of, you know, which was, you could even argue that is even more important than the physical labor, because labor is just hand. Somebody die, you just swap somebody in. But intellectually, skills and knowledge is a lot more harder to come by, in specialty and niche. So you would imagine, when you think about it, it's like the slaves that were had a profound knowledge base or skill set were the ones that were, I would say, the premium property of the slaveholders, because they could, you know, that knowledge is, you drain it, and you teach, and that's how you help expand and perpetuate whatever you're trying to get across. Labor, you know, somebody got muscles or whatever, but if they become weak, they die, you just go get some more muscle. But that property.
I would like to say that the white people are scared of the knowledge black folks had because sometimes they could read and write better. So they needed them to teach themselves. But they needed the slaves to teach the white folks how to read and write the same way.
Yeah,
Because of programming, like how do you socialize, how do you program? Their whole thing was like, we have a program, we're trying to get the program off to the world. The program happens through knowledge and information. You make people think and feel a certain way, and you perpetuate that, and that's how you come to dominance. That's what colonization was all about. It was like getting our program off.
I want to share, just connect the dot type thing that I do try to. So everybody's familiar with the Black Wall Street and all this, and they may not be as familiar with how many black cities really blew up out of control in terms of success and were taken down by the white folks who were not happy that these black people were getting beyond their lives. Well, there's a whole backdrop to why that was happening. It turns out that the military, from the founding of the country to the end of the Civil War, was in the top 3 of users of slaves in the world. And they contracted them from all the plantation owners. What did the military use them for? Build roads and towns. They built roads and towns. So when the black people got free and they went west because they could do it, those cities were just blowing up out of control because they had the knowledge on how to do it. A story I had just stumbled across, not knowing at all. And to me, this is a powerful, again, connect the dots to why something happened. And so now our knowledge could never be held down. It just keeps crushed down as it starts to rise. So that's a Lewis Hook educated hood rat teaching moment.
Yeah, okay. You call yourself the educated hood rat. Please explain to us where that came from.
Okay. This is important to me. I mentioned earlier that I grew up in housing projects, poor, and I stumbled my way along with. My dad was an alcoholic. We never really had a relationship, and my mom was working 2 jobs, so I was kind of on my own. But I stumbled my way through, ended up at Occidental College with always attaching to whoever could help me, lead me. Went to Occidental College, economics major. From there, was accepted to the PhD program at MIT. And from there, I did all the coursework, but I didn't sit for the doctorate. I moved over to Harvard Business School. So academically, I went from housing projects to the top of the world, academically. Then I came out of there and I had reasonable success business-wise, but always holding on to this community thing that I was doing over here. So as the opportunity came up from some successful business, successful academics, to move back to Compton and start and work as a part of this thing that we've been discussing here, of what became the Compton Cowboys, of my sister's founding of it, I said, wow, I started here, went to the peak, and now I'm back in the hood. So I'm the educated hood rat.
Like that. You are, following that path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's your website, educatedhoodrat.com, right?
That's right.
Where people want to find out more information and journals.
Mm-hmm.
And then the website, ComptonCowboys.com, right?
Yes, you can look
guys
for merch.
Yep, we have our stories there, our merchandise is there, and our community program is there where people can learn about how to get involved as well, and seeing everything that we're doing in the community with the kids and all that stuff, programs.
That's good. One of the things that is happening right now, because of someone as high profile as Beyonce with her country album, has kind of shined a spotlight on this culture. I know it started with, They call them the Bayhive.
Right.
With them now getting into the clothes and everything, you see women who don't even go riding and they just want to dress like they're a cowgirl. But the indirect influence is that it makes people look and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should look at what's this culture about. You touched a bit briefly on the fashion piece in the book here, which was the cowboy aesthetic and Black fashion. Black cowboys have always had their own sense of style, but now their influence is reaching mainstream fashion. And you even talk about people like Ralph Lauren being influenced by this. And it's something that I think about when I think about, Black culture in general has had a lot of influence in the world of fashion and style. And so the cowboy culture, what makes the Black cowboy culture a little bit different than what we've seen in mainstream film?
So let's let Randy take that because he's the guy who is really involved across the board in what's happening in that space.
Yeah, this is something that came full circle to me while I was here too, because even when we were in the naming ceremony, we had to put on the garb, right? The tribal stuff. And I'm like, yo, this is like some serious fashion statement stuff. Like the way it's put together, the colors. And I always wondered, like, our people have always had a sense for what you wear and how that makes a statement about who you are and what you represent and what your intentions are in the world. And that is absolutely true in the Black West and the Black cowboy culture and history, is that the pieces that we chose to put on our bodies and what they said about who we were and what presented our strength and our perspective and our, it's encoded with all these really historical and traditional and spiritual components. And that's actually what was the precipice or the inspiration for Hollywood to appropriate and to put their faces on our aesthetic, because it was cool, but they just couldn't accept the fact that we were the ones being the cool ones. So the original cowboy aesthetic, the way we wear our hats, the way we wear our chaps and the different pieces that we put on and how we put it together was just so magnetic to the world. And so the powers that be saw it, was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I love what that statement. They were strong and capable and cool and hot. So how do we take that and do something with that and monetize it and capitalize off that? So it's absolutely a fact and true that, the way we imagine the first image of what the cowboy is, like you said, we first asked that question is, what do you think of when you see the cowboy, which is like a Marlboro Man or, a white cowboy in a Western film. A lot of that stuff came from our people, the same way we would tie our rags around our neck, same the way we wore our hats, the way our jeans fit, the way our boots, the colors and textures of which, you got to think like in the motherland or just like in nature. And like, if you got Black people like, oh, we using actual animals' hides to make these pieces.
Yeah.
The way it's craftsmanship. That craftsmanship is our IP. And there's no way they would have been on that. When you see somebody today wearing snakeskin or leather or ostrich or whatever, where do you think they got that from? You know what I'm saying? Like, those is our people, making boots out of whatever they could find. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Maybe let's make that our thing. So the fashion piece is important. It's also important because it's the first, to me, that's like the initial gateway into the culture.
Right.
Like, you would be surprised to know how many people have gotten into the lifestyle, but started with just loving the idea of wearing a hat,
Right.
or some boots,
Right.
or some cute top, or whatever, a vest, or some jeans. And because you see it, it's like, wow, what is that? This is saying something. Well, that looks amazing. You put it on, and you're like, wow, this feels amazing. Then you're like, wait, what is this? Students are asking you questions. Oh, you a cowboy? You ride horses or whatever? Where you get those boots from? And you're like, oh, I actually been. So it just starts to get the ball rolling, and the next thing you know, I got people who were straight up city folks, started seeing all the stuff going on in pop culture with the cowboy stuff, and next thing you know, they're selling their cars, getting horses, selling their condos, going to get farms, living in Montana, and it's very real. So it's no secret that it's a very important starter. The starter kit to get into the lifestyle is your fits.
Yeah.
So it's very cool to see and fun. And we're very intentional about owning that, right? Like, let's make the cowboy, the black cowboy, look as amazing as and culturally sound and authentic as possible and relatable. And that's going to get young people to go, wow, that looks cool. Maybe I want a hot cowboy hat. And then that gets them down the line. And then we could do that. That's our path. That's our pathway. That's our program. That's how we do it.
Just a closing mark on that. Denim was slave wear. Where is it today? It's just incredible. It's everywhere.
Some brands I won't wear because of how it looks. And there's one brand I know about. I probably should say, but
It's okay.
But you know, this thing is very, especially important in inner city where kids ain't growing up on farms.
Yeah.
They're not growing up with animals and stuff. So they don't have an entry point into the lifestyle other than they might have a cowboy hat. And that makes them a cowboy first. And then they find their way to the land. But if they don't have an entry point, often they be cowboy.
Right. Definitely. Well, this has been a really great conversation, learning more about you guys and the audience learning more about what you do and who are the Compton Cowboys, about the culture. And I want some closing remarks from each of you. Anything you want to say to encourage others to get involved, to understand what it is that you're doing and why it's important.
Okay. I'll start. When you hear this conversation and you feel a tug of it's interesting, when you watch Beyonce and you say, man, it's kind of that outfit is kind of interesting, it's no accident. This is in your DNA. Science now has proven that we carry 14 generations of DNA. So you have no idea what's in there causing you to do and be attracted to what you have. But if you turn on the knowledge that what's in your DNA causes you interest, it's real. Don't ignore it.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's very important that our people get back to horses because, especially, the context of modern America, where inner cities are basically ravaging our people by design. Mainly it's stripping you away from the land, the animals, nature, and each other, and giving you guns, drugs, and other things to kind of get your mind wrapped around it. And the next thing you know, it's a perpetual cycle of death and destruction. But once you get connected to animals, particularly the horse, which as science has proven that the relationship between humans and horses is more profound than any other on earth. That's why equine therapy is very real. That's why horses and humans are the relationship that develops civilization. It teaches you life, love, responsibility, empathy, friendship, all these important life skills that translate into your everyday life. So when it's easy when you don't have connection to these animals or to land or nature. It's easy to go out and harm and ravage because you don't have a value for things that living beings, which would include people, your neighbor, right? But when you start having to feed a horse, groom it, take care of it, you bond and you go out in the world and connect and ride and do different things, that gives you such a fundamental baseline for like loving and appreciating, nurturing, living species, living things. And then you're much more inclined to look at your neighbor as an extension of that reality. You're like, why would I go shoot old so-and-so from around the corner? He's just another living person that's maybe lost, needs love, nurturing, water, food, shelter to thrive and become better. So that connection is so important. That's the heart and soul of what we do at our ranch is we introduce as many people. Our grand mission statement is bringing humans and horses together for the greater good. And we want to have young people come meet these animals early. So by the time they start getting into their developmental years, developing their own perspective on the world that is in that as a fundamental baseline, so that they, over time you become like the Compton Cowboys. We're all upstanding members of our community. We love the kids, we share, we give back. We don't do anything that's nothing is bigger than the program. It's all of us are a part of a bigger mission. And so that's the ideology we want to instill in young people. And I think it starts with the horses. So if you can find your way to some horses, some kind of way, bring your kids, reach out if you're in LA, Compton Cowboys. And there's a lot of clubs all over the United States that are doing the same work, and internationally as well. So I would say try to get into it, because it'll be life changing.
For me, it's already important. I'm already influencing the youth to help them learn how to connect with the horses and help them evolve as a good human being. And then everybody else, I can help them at the same time, but my main focus has been on the youth back home. And all the kids, they love me as one of their coaches. They tell me all the time, like, I'm one of the best coaches back there with them. Just give me a good feeling, because sometimes I don't always know how to give a teaching moment. So it made me feel good when multiple kids tell me, can you put me on the horse? Can you? I'll be like, yeah, I got you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been a really good and important conversation, letting all of you know about this culture of equestrian lifestyle that some people are not aware that people in the Black community are actively involved and have historically been a part of it. And media has shown us something different. And so now we have people like them who are here shifting your thought, making a change, and making sure you get back to your root when it comes to understanding the value of this. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a really, really interesting time learning more about what you do. And I'm so happy that you had a great experience here in Ghana.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. In particular, with us having this emotional experience and reflecting on it with your help. So it's very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate their love and support. ComptonCowboys.com, educatedhillrat.com.
Check us out.
Check them out. And then pick up the book as well, Black and
Get some merch, hat, first.
And the book.
All of the information will be on the screen and in the video description for you to tap a link and then make your purchases. Go to the website and check it out. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. My name is Ivy Prosper, telling stories from the African continent and with the diaspora community and beyond, right here in Ghana. Thank you for watching. My name is Ivy. See you next time.